This is video number 3 in our series on the question, why do we switch from second person to third person in the middle of every bracha? This is from the Machzor Vitry, who was one of Rashi's students. He says, it is for this reason that we say at the conclusion of each and every blessing, Baruch Atoh Hashem, you Hashem are the source of all blessing, like a person speaking in front of a king, mouth to mouth. But in the middle of the blessing, we bless as though it were through a messenger. For we do not say, Baruch Atah Hashem shebarasa pri hagafen, that you created the fruit of the vine. We say, Bore pri hagafen, he created the fruit of the vine, creates. And likewise, asher bachar banu, v'lo shebacharta banu, he chose us, not you chose us. And similarly in many other instances. So unlike the last two answers we saw, the Machzor Vitry's answer introduces a mashal, an analogy of speaking before a king. When you start off the bracha, you use the second person because you treat it as though you're in the king's presence and speaking to him directly. But then after that, you switch to third person to evoke the mashal of speaking to the king via an emissary who delivers your message to the king who's not in your presence. Okay, he goes on and says, the reason for this matter is what David said, Shivisi Hashem lindegdi samid, I have placed Hashem in front of me continually. In other words, Haisa yiraso al panai, the awe of him was before me, and I act as if the Shekhinah were dwelling before me. But it is also written, Baruch kvod Hashem mimukomo, blessed is the glory of Hashem from his place. In other words, may his name be blessed in its place on high, for we do not know his place. Thus, we do not act as if we are before the Shekhinah. So I think of this as two different dimensions of Yiras Hashem, a fear of Hashem. There's the Yiras Hashem when you are standing in front of the king, and that's an experience of awe and fear and dread. But then there's the other aspect of Yiras Hashem where you can't even access the king except via an emissary, because he's that prominent. So each element of this mashal captures a different component of the addressing the king experience. Okay, so now he goes on and raises a question. How is it possible to reconcile these two verses? Answer, rather, this is their implication. When a person mentions the name of God, he says, I have placed Hashem before me continually, and he needs to act as though he is before him. And once he's before him, he speaks mouth to mouth. But when we make the blessing after mentioning the name, he says, blessed is Hashem from his place, and he needs to bless via a messenger. Now, the first couple times I read this, I did not catch what he's getting at here. It sounded like he was just repeating himself. So in order to explain the nuance he's bringing out, we need to go to the Rambam in his definition of makom in relation to Hashem. So Rambam says, makom. Originally this term was given the meaning of particular and general place. Subsequently, language extended its meaning and made it a term denoting an individual's rank and situation. I mean to say, with reference to his perfection in some matter. It is in this figurative manner that it is said, Baruch kvod Hashem mimukomo, blessed is the glory of Hashem from his place, meaning according to his level and the greatness of his glory in existence. Similarly, in every mention of place in reference to Hashem, the sole intention is to signify the level of his existence, exalted is he, for which there is nothing analogous and there is no comparison, as we shall explain. So in other words, when you see the word makom, place, in relation to Hashem, it does not mean literally place, right? Because place is a physical quality. Hashem isn't here, Hashem isn't there, Hashem isn't really anywhere, because place is a physical quality. Rather, place in regards to Hashem means the level of his existence, the fact that he is an independent existence who is absolutely one, who is not physical, and who transcends time. Okay, one more point, and then we'll return to the Machzor Vitry. In the chapter in the Mora where the Rambam talks about how God doesn't have any qualities, in one of the chapters, he talks about ascribing actions to God. And he says, therefore, we are permitted to describe Hashem as doing actions, as long as you know that the acts in question are not carried out by different qualities subsisting in his essence, as we have made clear. But that all his different actions, all of them are via his essence, without any superadded property, as we have made clear. So in other words, when we say that Hashem acts mercifully and acts with strict justice, those do not stem from two qualities in Hashem of merciful and just. Hashem is one, and he does different actions that stem from his oneness, his essence. For those who are in the know, that's the Rambam's fire analogy, which we'll have to talk about in another video. What does that have to do with the Machzor Vitry? So here's what I think the Machzor Vitry is saying. He's saying, when a person mentions the name of God, then he has the pasuk of, I place Hashem before me continually. That's like the Rashba said in our first video, where the reality of God's existence is manifest, and it's as if he's in front of you. He says, but when we make the blessing after mentioning the name, then we go into the mode of Baruch kvod Hashem mimukomo, and we bless via a messenger. So what this means, I think, is that we understand that all the good we have comes from Hashem, but we don't understand how that good comes from his pure essence. which is absolutely one. That is an utterly mysterious process for us. So when we talk about Hashem and mention his name, we speak in the second person as if he's here because his existence is manifest. But when we talk about how the good comes to us from Hashem, there we treat it as though we're talking to the king via an emissary and we're not even in the king's presence. This is not the king doling out benefits to you when you're in front of him and can understand and see him giving benefits to you. This is the king delivering benefits to you hidden behind a wall that you cannot approach, which is why we have to use the analogy of the emissary. So that is the third explanation, answer to our question.